it was coming. Democratic Senator from Massachusetts, Ed Markey, now says, yup, Trump is to blame for the LA wildfires. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot of news to talk about over the last 48 hours. Without question, the big story in the country, around the world, is the continued raging inferno that is destroying, there's no other word, that is destroying Los Angeles right in front of our eyes. And the damage now is becoming incalculable. In fact, according now to local officials, they now say the number of acres, the sheer landmass that has now been decimated, incinerated by these out-of-control, almost apocalyptic wildfires is the size of San Francisco. It is the geographical size of San Francisco. The Pacific Palisades are in smoldering ruins. Much of downtown Hollywood is gone. Malibu, Beverly Hills, Pasadena, Sunset Boulevard, some of the most iconic pieces of real estate and areas in the country and in the world are now literally up in smoke. And the wildfires continue to rage. More windstorms are hitting that area. Now it has gotten so bad because there was such incompetent, negligent leadership on the part of not just the city of Los Angeles, but Gavin Newsom and the state of California, that, listen now to this, they had to call in help from Mexico. Mexico. Firefighters from Mexico, because there's not enough firefighters in LA County because of all of the savage budget cuts. Canada now has been providing volunteering firefighters, equipment. 7 other states have now sent in their firefighters to try to help out what's going on in Southern California. And meanwhile, as all of this goes on, I swear to you, you could not make this up if you wanted to. The Democrats are blaming Trump. Trump. And leading the pack. And I gotta say, I keep saying this over and over and over again. It's like a race. Really. It's like a political arms race between California and the People's Republic of Massachusetts. Okay? I mean, really. It's who's gonna out moonbat, out crazy one another. Either it's California, well, then now we got to respond. Then when we do it, well, then they got to respond. And then when they do it, we got to respond. So even in California, I have to say, they're attacking Trump. They're vilifying Trump. They hate Trump. But even they in California, even those crazy liberals, are not blaming Trump. But here came Massachusetts. So Ed Markey, he's been in Congress forever. 20 years in the House, senator now for over 10 years. Okay, as I like to call him, a Marcula. I want to take your money. I want to suck your blood. Well, Malarkey came out over the weekend attacking and blasting Trump and literally blaming him for what's happening in California and the wildfires. Now, remember, it was Malarkey who co-sponsored the Green New Deal with Alexandria Fidel Castro Cortez, with AOC. So, he's a radical environmental leftist. He is on the far left of the Democratic Party. He's basically an eco-socialist or an eco-Marxist. That's what Marcula, that's what he is. Well, listen now to Malarkey. This is what he posted on X on Saturday. Quote, I swear to you, you're not going to believe me, so I'm going to read you the quote. This is how freaking insane, literally insane, the Democrats have become, and especially the Democrats in this state, but frankly in most blue states. Here's Malarkey. Quote, he says that the Los Angeles fires are the result of a climate change disaster stoked by Donald Trump's embrace of big oil. And he's warning now, more deaths, more atrocities are coming. Trump is killing people. Quote, here's what he said, quote, Trump has been bought for $1 billion by big oil. Just a payoff to kill the IRA and the Green New Deal. We know what will happen. More fires, more climate disasters, more death. The LA fires are a preview of coming atrocities, quote unquote. Malarkey wrote on X, as I said, on Saturday. Then, in another post, this was on Friday, this is what Malarkey said, quote, he said that that Trump is adding fuel to the fire by expressing support for more oil and natural gas drilling. Los Angeles is on fire. Donald Trump says he will stop all wind and solar. He will add fuel to the fire. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? This is the kind of psychopath. This is the kind of evil sociopath that many Democrats at the leadership level have become. You have to see the pictures. The satellite images in particular are just horrendous. They're shocking. They're truly shocking when you see how much of Southern California has been burned to the ground. 10,000 structures. 10,000 structures. Homes, churches, synagogues, schools, businesses, hospitals, clinics, shopping malls. It's gone. It's all gone. Literally, as many people in California are saying, when you see the scale of the havoc and the devastation, it almost looks like somebody dropped a small nuclear bomb on Southern California. And yet, what's Malarkey up to? This is what Malarkey is up to. Quote, bashing Republicans. I swear, he's bashing Republicans for not supporting the full, remember, Biden passed the Green New Deal, but it wasn't the full Green New Deal that Malarkey and AOC wanted. So, here's what Malarkey writes, quote, Republicans say that we can't afford a Green New Deal. That's what he wrote over the weekend. What we really can't afford is to sacrifice our lives, homes, and communities in fires fueled by the climate crisis. We need a system change, not climate change. And when they mean system change, what they mean is la revolución. They mean a socialist Marxist revolution, as they laid out in the Green New Deal. Now, let me just say a few things, okay? And then I want to go to the phone lines. Honestly, if enough people call in, I want to start taking calls right after the break. 617-266-6868 is the number. If you remember when this crisis first erupted, when the wildfires raging out of control, and you can see now Los Angeles and Los Angeles County turning into an apocalyptic hellscape. That's how devastating the fires were. I said, mark my words, the Democrats, the media, Hollywood are going to blame climate change. That's their go-to now forever. It's racism, sexism, transphobia, Islamophobia, homophobia, and climate change. That's all. They have 5. That's all they know. 5 buttons to press. That's it. That's their explanation for everything. So I said they're going to deflect from the incredibly bad, incompetent leadership of the Democratic Party in Los Angeles, Karen Bass, the mayor, who should be fired on the spot. I know she can't, but she should resign. She should be recalled. She needs to go. And Gavin Newsom, who needs to go. And I said, mark my words, they're going to blame, quote unquote, climate change. Now notice, they show no evidence. They just assert it. Wildfires, this is a cause of climate change. Yeah, where's your evidence? It's like we've been having wildfires for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So why now is it being caused by climate change? Show me the direct link. You can't. You can't. It's a pure fiction. You're just making it up. To distract from what an idiot and a buffoon Karen Bass is. What an idiot and a buffoon Gavin Newsom is. My friends, does Donald Trump deserve to be blamed for what's happening in California? The guy is still a week away from being inaugurated, and they're already blaming him for everything. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the Trump derangement syndrome. If anything, honestly, it's getting even worse. I can't believe I'm saying this. Now, Markula. Okay, Ed Markey, Malarkey as I like to call him. Senator Ed Markey, Massachusetts leftist, has now gone wild on X, saying that Donald Trump is to blame for the climate crisis, and the climate crisis is to blame for the California wildfires. Trump is a murderer. Those fires are causing massive deaths, atrocities, as Markey put it, and he says Trump is to blame. Let me ask all of you. Sorry, either you laugh or you cry. Is Trump to blame? Or is Markey out of his mind? 617-266-6868. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
Can
Jim.
you believe what's happening there? And 3 gentlemen catch this guy on a bike. What do you think he is and what he has in his hand? He has a torch. He was setting fires. Who knows where in the state of California. They grabbed him. They hand him over to the police. The police find out he's illegal, that shouldn't have been here. So how many of these other illegals are doing what he's doing in that state to cause these fires? And how many people have died? 16 and 22 missing? I wonder if he's behind any of these fires where some of these people were killed in their houses because of this scumbag that shouldn't have been here, and the Democrats brought him in here. The blood is on the governor, the mayor. The blood is on their hands.
Jimmy, you are not 100. You are 1,000% correct. And just to show to you how correct you are, you're right. An illegal immigrant, an illegal alien, has now been arrested, caught using a blowtorch, lighting fires. Literally. We have the sound. Here it is. Yeah, this is the same one. That's right. That Jimmy's talking about. The exact same, what you're talking about. They have it on tape. Here it is. Here's an illegal alien being arrested for trying to start a fire in an LA neighborhood. Roll cut 13, Mike.
Put him down! He's starting a fire! We need to get that from him! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down right now!
Put it down, put it down, put it down. That's the blowtorch. Put it down right now. And he's being arrested. Now, apparently there are multiple reports that illegal aliens have been starting fires. They're not just torching homes. They literally were torching the brush in the forests and in these dry areas, lighting wildfires. So I'm not saying they caused every wildfire. We don't know, but they've definitely caused several wildfires. And Southern California is burning. Who brought them into Southern California? Gavin Newsom. Who turned his state into a sanctuary state? Gavin Newsom. Who invited them into Los Angeles? Karen Bass, the mayor. She turned her city. In fact, they voted again. What was it? After Trump's election to reassert their sanctuary city status. And to all the moonbats out there, I'm going to go right back to you, Jimmy, I promise. You gonna blame Trump? Are you guys out of your mind? So he's a private citizen and has been since January 2021. He's got no power, and he's had no power for 4 years. You're going to blame him for what's happening in California? Loco. In California, the governor is a Democrat. The lieutenant governor is a Democrat. The entire Democratic Assembly, as they call it, the state legislature, a super majority of Democrats. The mayor of Los Angeles, Democrat. The local city council, 15 members, 14 Democrats, 1 independent. And Markey is blaming Republicans for the fires in Southern California? No. This is a Democrat tragedy, a Democrat crisis caused by Democrat incompetence and negligence. Jimmy, what say you?
I'm going to say it like this, Jeff. Markey should be blaming Biden because he brought these people into this country not knowing who the hell they are to begin with. How do you bring people into the country that you don't know who they are? You have nothing on them and you just let them in.
I got to ask you, Jimmy, what kind of a sicko, what kind of psychopaths are they bringing in that you're lighting wildfires and you think it's funny? Now you're going around in the midst of this catastrophe and you're lighting fires on homes? No, these are arsonists. They love to see things go up in flames. Jimmy, what kind of sick people have they allowed into our country?
Jeff, it's like this. When we came here and your parents came here, we had to have people sponsor us. And we had to have jobs. These people are sitting around doing nothing but making babies.
And collecting welfare. Jimmy, you hit the nail right on the head. Jimmy, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay. Malarkey says Trump is to blame for the wildfires in California. Your reaction next. 6:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, what do you make now of this new line of attack coming from the Democrats and the media that Trump is to blame? I swear to you, for the wildfires in California. Not Gavin Newsom, not the mayor of L.A., not the fire chief of L.A., who it seemed was fired for a while, but apparently now the mayor has said she's going to keep her job. So, so there's no water in the hydrants. There's no water in many of the reservoirs. There's no forestry management to speak of. They don't clear any of the brush, any of these forests, where they've been told for years, if you don't clear these things out, they're like a tinderbox for all of these wildfires. They divert so much of their resources towards illegal aliens. They even sent off surplus equipment, fire hoses, which they don't have now, to Ukraine. They just gave them away. But it's Trump's fault. The guy hasn't even been in power yet. It's already Trump's fault. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh, I got to tell you, Bruce, the moon bats are out in full force now, buddy.
Oh, Jeff, for one, I just want to say, I talked to you last week, the day you came back, and I did not mention anything about your father. You know why, Jeff? Because you know what it's like to lose something. Now, these people out there in California with Newsom and in Massachusetts with us, with Maura Healey and the mayor of Boston. Now, she said we must have fires to burn and so we can see through and with the with what was going on with the riots and the burnings and everything. Well,
yeah, the riots of 2020. The burning and the looting of cities is good, she said, because that's how you rebuild a community, according to her.
The 24 that are supposedly dead, now that's a loss for sure, but how about the 24,000 or something? How many people have died because of the fentanyl coming in here across the border and all the illegals that are here and taken away from our military, taken away from our police? Defund. This is what you get. Trump told them, you got to open up. You got to store the water. You got to have the water. And what these people, these millionaires that vote for these idiots, these lunatic sickos that are in power, that need to get ousted right out from underneath us, so we don't even miss them. They're the ones that are the problem. And here's Donald Trump. He hasn't even got in office, like you said. He's done more for the look what he did in Pennsylvania, what he did in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Florida. He was there giving things, flying planes into places. He has better things to do. He's not even in power, but he is in power because he's helped the American people. He has told us, just like if you were in a confessional, not in a confessional, but you were in church and you're listening to the priest or the minister give his eulogy. I mean, he's been speaking to us like we're like regular people, not like we're the scum, like they say we are. We're the losers. We're the the pieces of crap, like Hillary said we were.
No, yeah, we were deplorables. Yeah, that's what she called us. No, look, you're completely right, Bruce. This is so insulting what the Democrats are doing now on so many levels. Really, it's not. It shows again the complete contempt that they have for us. So, number one, you're going to politicize this wildfire, these wildfires in Southern California. So now you're blaming Trump for something that he clearly had nothing to do with. And then you're trying to blame climate change for complete and utter Democrat incompetence and mismanagement. And that's what this is. This has been going on for years. And what I urge everybody, please don't take my word for it. It's a stunning interview. It's a stunning interview. The DEI chief of the LA fire department, okay, the Los Angeles fire chief, Kristen Crowley. I guess she didn't get the memo to blame Trump because she's being interviewed, and she's literally asked point blank, do you have all the resources that you need? She says, no. Now the reporter's like, what? She goes, no. In fact, they've been chronically underfunding the fire department for years. And she says, I told Karen Bass, I told Gavin Newsom, there's no water in the reservoirs. There's no water in the fire hydrants. We don't have enough firefighters. We don't have enough fire trucks. We don't have enough fire assets to deal with serious raging wildfires. We have been chronically under-resourced, chronically understaffed, chronically underfunded. And he says, so you're blaming the mayor? She goes, yeah. Like, she goes, the mayor and the governor cannot say they were not aware of this. I made them aware of it again and again and again. And here's the kicker. It's now just coming out. And this is now coming, to be fair, from the local liberal media. Because the evidence of such colossal incompetence and gross negligence is so freaking high that even they can't sweep it under the rug. So, here now, listen, all of you got to hear this. 8 days prior to the outbreak of these wildfires, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom were told, they were given weather report after weather report, saying these are going to be huge windstorms, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. There are going to be colossal wildfires. It is almost inevitable. We need to be prepared. You have to pre-position assets. In fact, they were even told, call in the National Guard now. Be ready for it now. Get the fire trucks out now. Get everything ready now. What did Karen Bass do? She went to Africa. She went to Ghana. She literally ignored all of the advice coming in, all of the reports coming in, saying, no, this is going to be very serious. This LA could burn. Literally, if we're not ready, LA could burn. And that and she's a Marxist. She is a die-hard communist who says she admires Fidel Castro. She's an admirer of Fidel. And this commie goes to Africa. Holy mackerel. Listen now. This is the abbreviated version. Listen now. This is Kristen Crowley being interviewed by local media. And I think it's Fox 11, if I'm not mistaken. Roll cut 15, Mike.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say, justifiably, what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
I mean, there you go. There you go. The fire chief is saying everything we asked for, we didn't get. Did they fail us? Yes, they failed us. Climate change. Trump. Blame Trump. Climate change. Climate crisis. Blame. You're dealing with a bunch of fanatics. This is like a climate church. It's a climate cult. Everything to them, it revolves around climate change. And like a medieval religion, you're dealing with fanatics who refuse to look at common sense, facts, evidence, reality. So, my question now to you, 617-266-6868, with this raging infernos, burning and burning and burning, and now much of Los Angeles is smoldering ash. This is the worst wildfire in California history. Maybe now soon to be the worst in American history. The public's revulsion, and that's what it is, they're revolted by the incompetence and the negligence, the gaslighting, the manipulation of the likes of Malarkey and Newsom and Bass and Elizabeth Warren and all of them. Is this now another nail in the coffin of the Democratic Party? 617-266-6868. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Michael on Messenger. And he makes an absolutely outstanding point. He says, and it's a long text, so I'm just going to summarize a little bit and then read from it. He basically says, look, let's just say for the sake of argument that, Malarkey, Ed Markey and AOC and Gavin Newsom and all these moonbats now, these left-wing Democrats who are trying to blame Trump for the wildfires and blaming the climate change and climate crisis for the wildfires. Now, this is what he says. He goes, let's just say they're right, just for the sake of argument. Jeff, if we entertain that Markey and all the climate change cult members are right, and the fires in Southern California are caused by climate change, wouldn't one then have to be on board 1,000% to increase maintaining the forest, clearing the brush, controlled burns, fire breaks, removing dead trees, trimming them, etc.? But they don't support doing that. Instead, the same people who want to save the environment from this kind of disaster caused this disaster. Bingo. If you really believe in climate change, if you're really convinced, oh my God, planet has a fever and things are getting so hot and it's going to lead to, rising sea levels and wildfires everywhere. Well, then forestry management becomes your top priority. Pumping money into the fire department is your top priority. Making sure the fire hydrants are full of water, having reservoirs to the top, brimming to the top. That's all your top priority. Clearing all the underbrush, the dead trees. In other words, proper forestry management. That's now an absolute must, a priori, as they say, top priority. Instead, they did nothing. They did nothing. In fact, Bass cut nearly $20 million from the fire budget. Again, why? To take care of all the illegals. That's what's distracting all of these funds. All of them are being diverted. So priorities are being distracted because everybody's got to keep, having a lot of illegals, feeding them, clothing them, sheltering them, free healthcare, free education, that costs a lot of money. Resources have to be diverted from fire, from police, from public safety, you name it. Now we're finding out. I'll play the cut one more time. Now, local media is now reporting in California, multiple illegal aliens are being arrested. They have started wildfires. They're caught with blowtorches, either trying to start a wildfire or trying to burn homes to the ground. This is one of them. Roll cut 13, Mike.
Put it down! He's starting a fire! We need to get that. Put it down! Put it down! Put it down right now!
That's unbelievable. They pulled it down, the blowtorch, put it down, put it down, put it down. And even then, still, Larry on Messenger messaged me saying, Jeff, that individual was not arrested for arson. That illegal was not arrested for arson. They're still coddling the illegals, even after they caught them either burning down homes or starting some of these wildfires. I mean, you can't make this up. Now, here is, as the French would say, the coup de grace, okay? This is the final, liberalism is a mental disorder. Here it is. This is the final proof, okay? The final blow in this, really, into the Democratic regime, the Democratic Party, and any debate, any argument, whether they are colossally incompetent or insane. Okay, here it is. You have the fire chief who gives this wide-ranging, shocking, stunning interview. Please, I urge all of you, you got to hear it, you got to see it, where she's saying, we've been asking for money for years. population is exploding in Los Angeles. She says, these are her words, we need 62 extra fire stations. 62. We don't have enough fire hoses. We don't have enough fire trucks. We don't have enough firefighters. She says, there's no water in the hydrants. She goes, we've been complaining. One reservoir has been empty for 15 years. 15 years. Okay? So she's going on. We're understaffed, under-resourced, underfunded. And she says, yeah, the mayor is to blame. The city council is to blame. It's the city leadership. Karen Bass then gives an interview. And the rumor went, I think the Daily Mail, in fact, even went with the story, that Bass fired Kristen Crowley. That's the woke DEI fire chief that came out and said, yeah, we've been understaffed and under-resourced and shafted for many years. So Karen Bass, the mayor, is now asked by a local reporter, did you fire Kristen Crowley? She's asked. Crowley is standing right behind Karen Bass. This is how crazy Los Angeles now politically has become. You got to hear this. Roll cut 16, Mike.
Crowley walked into your office yesterday. Were you planning to fire her? Were you angry with her over her media appearance?
Oh my goodness.
And do you agree with her that the fire department is very underfunded?
Let me just say that, as you see here, the chief and I are lockstep in our number one mission. And that mission is to get us past this emergency right now. We want to make sure that we save lives, we save housing, we save businesses, and if there are differences that we have, we will continue to deal with those in private. Thank you.
You can't make this up. She just said you're incompetent. That's what she said. She told you to your face in private, okay, this Kristen Crowley, this fire chief, and then said it essentially the same thing in a local media interview, that you're so incompetent and that you've been so negligent that she's been asking for necessary resource, funding, equipment, and that you have denied it again and again and again. And your answer is, we're in lockstep? Oh my, look, if you live in Southern California, I don't know how many, I know we have listeners in California. I know that for a fact. I don't know how many of them are in Southern California. You are so screwed. I'm sorry to tell you this. You are so screwed. Get the hell out of Southern California. She sounds like a commie. No, I mean a real life commie. That's how communists were. That's like, it's like Venezuela. You can't believe the stuff that comes out of their mouth. Venezuela, before Chavez and Maduro came to power, the socialists, I want all of you to listen to this, has had one of the world's largest supplies of oil and natural gas, the second biggest in the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela was sitting on oil. Venezuela could be the Saudi Arabia of the Western Hemisphere. By the time these communists were done, Venezuela is importing oil and natural gas. You know, as somebody texted me, what was it, last week? If Gavin Newsom was in charge of Saudi Arabia, the Saudis would, they'd run out of sand in 5 years. Really, there'd be a shortage of sand. Ay. So hold on. Your fire chief says you're really incompetent, and she's been asking you for money and funds and equipment and staff, and because there's not enough of anything. And that basically, you're to blame for all this. I'm in lockstep with her, and we're going to get the job done. Ay. And now, Here it is. Here's the cherry on the sundae. In Pacific Palisades, where a lot of the rich and, not all, but many of the rich and famous live there, okay? The Hollywood elites, whose homes are being burned to the ground because of her colossal negligence and mismanagement. Frankly, her stupidity. The woman's a moron, a low IQ idiot, are now coming to Karen Bass's defense. Now their argument is, listen to this, that Karen Bass is a victim of sexism. That she's just being criticized because she's a woman. She's a woman. No, she's being criticized because she's a walking, talking disaster. That's why. Never let your state be run by liberals. Because I'm telling you, they will burn it to the ground. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. David on the Cape in Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, this is a joke. Saying that it's Trump's fault. As Colonel David Hunt would say, you have to eat a case of dumbass to believe that. Trump's been in court. I don't know if they know, Trump's been in court for the past 4 years. He's been going from one case to another. You know, this is facts matter, Jeff. I don't know if Markey has dementia, but you know, California, the L.A. area, Malibu, that wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for the Industrial Revolution and oil and gas and the roads and the water. That place is a barren area. And the Santa Ana winds for thousands of years have been running through there, burning brush and so forth. And last year, California had a record rainfall of 10 billion gallons of water that they allowed to flow into the sea instead of putting it in reservoirs. And it's Trump's fault. Trump warned them. He's a real estate guy. And he knows landscaping. Facts and science and data matter. Here's a fact, Jeff. A guy named Aaron Heike, the head of the Border Patrol, last September on Capitol Hill, he testified that in San Diego they were letting in dangerous terrorists and illegals right across the border. 90% of the country's fentanyl came across the border there, all in San Diego. So California's been poisoning the USA with fentanyl. 100,000 deaths from overdose of fentanyl, by the way, coming out of California. The San Fernando Valley area is the porn hub of the whole country, poisoning people's minds with pornography and child porn. They've been allowing drugs to run rampant through California. But we've seen the robbers go through the stores and destroy without robbing jewelry stores in California. So they're promoting this crazy lifestyle and then hire DEI hires in government to oversee all this. Black Lives Matter, Jeff. They lost 2 mansions in the fire. Black Lives Matter helped create 300 riots just a few years ago that burnt buildings down and destroyed the rest of the country. And now, you know, in California, Hollywood mocks marriage and Christianity and family life, and they're saying it's Trump's fault? Really? They allowed 10 billion gallons of water to flow into the sea rather than save it for fires. None of this makes sense, Jeff. The facts, the science matter. Aaron Heike testified 90% of the drugs are coming through California and San Diego for fentanyl. It's poisoning our country. Imagine this is what.
No, David, look, you're completely right. And look, I want to piggyback off of what you're saying, because you're right. California is one of the big weak spots along the southern border. It's porous. It's wide open. And they're proud of it. They keep inviting them, embracing them, celebrating illegals coming in. Well, look, we now know for sure that some illegals have burned some of these homes are now being burned by illegals, that they've started fires, and that they've started some of these wildfires. Now, it doesn't take much of an imagination to then say, well, what if a terrorist just comes in, from China, from Iran, take your pick, and says, you know what? I mean, a blowtorch, you can buy it at a Home Depot. Or just a match, really. Just light a match, one of these, forests, and just all that underbrush, and just drop it and say, you know what? I'm going to burn half the state to the ground. Bye-bye. Who's going to find out? This is how vulnerable we've now become. And so I wouldn't be shocked if this was an act of terror. I really wouldn't. Everybody in California is assuming, I'm just going by the local media reports and what people are saying. They're saying it's most likely homeless people or illegals or a combination of both who it's cold, they start a campfire or whatever, or they start some little fire and that this led to these blazes. Yeah, maybe. I'm not, I don't know, but I can tell you, it's not much of a stretch for some guy from China sent by their government to penetrate our wide open border, or for some Hezbollah or Hamas terrorist to say, you know what? Bye-bye Malibu. Here, I'll just torch it. Drop a match. Bye-bye Beverly Hills. Here you go. Bye-bye Pasadena. Here you go. Bye-bye Pacific Palisades. Here you go. And just light that fire. We're looking at now 16 dead, over 20 people missing, presumed dead, over 100,000 evacuated. Well, these are bare minimum numbers. We are talking thousands and thousands and thousands of acres incinerated. Much of Los Angeles is up in smoke. We are looking at potentially 40, 50, 60 billion dollars in damages. I don't know if the state can ever really recover. This is turning into an absolute catastrophe. And much of these fires are not contained. They're still not contained. That to me is what's incredible. So, yes, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a deliberate act of sabotage or an act of terror. Or at a minimum, a consequence of allowing all these illegals to come in. And they're like, well, okay, we got to stay warm. Let's light a fire. Ha, 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 ha. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. But if you don't clear out that underbrush, you're insane. Those dead trees on the ground, all that underbrush. My God, it's like gasoline, really. When I say it's timber, it's tinder. It's like a tinder box. From what I've read, literally a spark, just a spark. And it's like, boom. You just see, boom, the fire just, thousands of feet, just, boom, it just starts spreading everywhere. How could you not clear that out? That's it. That's in fact what Trump, this was when he was president, in the second half of his administration, there was a bad wildfire in California. You got to see it. Trump is lecturing Newsom to his face. They both have these windbreakers on. And Trump is pointing to the ground saying, why aren't the forest floors being cleared out? You know what a hazard this is? Are you nuts? And he's going on about other countries in Europe. He says, do you know how many trees they have? How many forests they have? How come they don't have wildfires? Because they clear their freaking forest floors. Look at this underbrush. You people are insane. And to me, I'm sorry. David, I can't wrap my mind. To me, this is, forget firing offense. Forget resign. I'm talking, this is criminal negligence. There's no water in the fire hydrants. There's no what? There's no water in the reservoirs that you have to draw on to fight a fire? In fact, I kid you not, the St. Juanice Reservoir, bone dry. I mean nothing. And apparently it's been empty for 15 years. For 15 years. And look, and Markey's yelling and screaming about climate change. And blaming Trump. And David, this is, I'm telling you, the most frightening of all. You look at a lunatic and you say, that's a lunatic. And then you look at your fellow moonbat neighbor And they say, I love that lunatic. I agree with that lunatic. Markey is saying all this, blaming Trump for the wildfires, because this plays well with the Boston Globe. This plays well with the Bills in Sudbury and the Franks in Gloucester. That's when we are starting to show the symptoms of a society gone mad. Really, think about it. As you put it, Trump's been in court for 4 years. What do you have to do with this? But you have enough crazy Americans, liberals, like, yeah, stick it to Trumper. David, may God help us. That's all I have to say. Thank you for that call. 617-266-6868. Ed Markey now on X, backed by many Democrats, now says that the raging wildfires in Southern California caused directly by climate change. And you know who he says causes the climate change? Donald J. Trump. And according to Markey, Trump is responsible for all the deaths in California. And he says it's just a taste, or as he put it, a preview of what is to come under the Trump administration. Atrocities, he says, are coming. 617-266-6868. Do you agree with Malarkey? Or like me, do you think the man is a left-wing lunatic? 617-266-6868. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner country, where we tell it like it is every day. We tell it like it is. Ed Markey is the poster boy for voter ignorance in Massachusetts. Thank God in the 1930s we did not have environment Nazis governing Massachusetts. The Quabbin Reservoir would never have been created. Without the Quabbin, we would have made...
Oh, Russ, you're making a brilliant point. Russ, do me a favor. Hang on, I'm up against a hard break. I'm coming right back to Russ. The Quabbin Reservoir. Oh, imagine if the Moonbats were managing that then. Oh, more next. 719 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we got Russ on hold in Boston. We're going to come right back to him. Just super quick, a very quick reset. So, Senator Ed Markey, now is claiming in a series of posts on X that the wildfires in California are a, quote, preview of coming atrocities, unquote, under the Trump administration. That Trump is to blame for the wildfires in Southern California, and it's just a taste of what's to come. It is now breaking, listen now to this, that California Democrat governor, Moonbat Gavin Newsom, cut $100 million, $100 million in fire prevention spending this year, all the while allocating $3 billion on free health care for illegals. So there you have it. Gavin Newsom cuts $100 million to prevent forest fires, wildfires, fire prevention, but $3 billion had to be spent on just free health care for illegals. No, hey, illegal immigration isn't killing the United States. No. That's what a sanctuary state does to you. 617-266-6868. I blame this on the feet of Newsom, Bass, and the entire Democratic leadership in California. Agree, disagree. Russ, you were on fire. You were saying, imagine if the eco-crazies, the environmentalists, were in charge in the 1930s. We never would have had the Quabbin Reservoir here in Massachusetts. Please, Russ, pick up where you left off.
Jeff, without the Quabbin, we would have major water shortages. Add to that, we have poor land management in Massachusetts, just like California. We're no better than they are as far as land management is concerned. If we had the winds that they have in Southern California, the Berkshires would be destroyed. And I'll repeat that again. The Berkshires would be destroyed, and the only luck we have in that area is the fact that we don't have the winds that they have in Southern California. Jeff, I am so sick and tired of the scumbag liberals, okay, and the ignorant people that believe what comes out of their mouth. And, you know, never mind a nail in the coffin of the Democratic Party. It's time to put a spike in it so it never opens again.
Russ, do you think the public is that gullible? I have to say it, that's stupid to believe that Trump is to blame for the wildfires in California. I mean, are the Bills in Sudbury and the Franks in Gloucester, I mean, we know they're really dumb, but are they that stupid? Will this fly in Massachusetts? Will this fly around the country?
Well, Jeff, let us not forget, in California, in Massachusetts, Kamala Harris would be the president on the 20th of January if they had their way. Do I need to say any more than that?
That's a very good point. That's touche. Checkmate, Russ. Russ, thank you very much for that call, as always. Keith in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Keith, and welcome.
And
Hi,
I've
Keith.
loved you in the morning. I've loved you in the afternoon. And sometimes I even love you at night in a non-sexual way. I don't feel sorry for anybody in California.
Now, why,
How
Keith?
come nobody mentions the fact that you did not buy your house and get a mortgage on it until you proved you had insurance on your house, right? You cannot get a mortgage without insuring the structure.
That's true, yes.
And when you pay off your house, are you going to cancel the insurance? I don't think so. And even if you do have that kind of money where you can self-insure, as they call it, you cannot burn up ground. You still own the property, and those lots out there are worth a fortune. I don't feel sorry for anybody out there. I'm sorry. And you know why propaganda exists, Kuhner? Because it works. What do you think about that?
No, that's an excellent point. Keith, you're on a roll, my friend. Keith, I've got to ask you, they're trying now desperately. You can see that. The media, Hollywood, the Democratic Party, Newsom, Markey, but it's the whole Democrat leadership now. They're trying to blame, and it is a catastrophe. They're trying to blame this catastrophe in Southern California on quote unquote climate change. That it's the climate change, the climate crisis that is causing these wildfires. Are people, again, foolish and ignorant enough to believe it? Can they see through it and realize, no, it's colossal mismanagement and negligence, it's bad policies that have led us to this, or do you think they're going to fall for blaming this catch-all climate change?
Well, I'll mention again, the reason propaganda exists is because it works. And this whole scam out there is being run by the worldwide powers that are behind the Democratic Party. People are just killing America, and this is just another step. Destroy the value, and they're going to sweep, the Soroses of the world are going to sweep in and buy all that property cheap once everybody's gone that can't afford to stay there.
Keith, thank you for your call, and thank you for your honesty. Great call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me throw this on the table. Is climate change responsible for what's happening in Southern California? Your call's next. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, catastrophe in California. There's just no other way to put it. Much of the southern part of the state now is going up in smoke. The wildfires continue to rage uncontrollably, and the damage now is becoming almost apocalyptic. Satellite images now show that the total number of square miles, square acres that have now been incinerated and burnt to ash is the size of San Francisco, the size of a major city in California. Beverly Hills, Malibu, Pacific Palisades, West Hollywood, Pasadena, I could go on and on, are now up in smoke. Entire communities, neighborhoods, businesses, shopping malls, thousands and thousands of homes, as I said, schools, structures of any and all kinds. Historic LA is gone. It is gone. And it just continues to rage on. So, listen now. Some of these texts now that are coming in are absolutely phenomenal. This is, you can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 212. Jeff, as to the absurd link to the fraudulent climate change trope being peddled by Ed Markey and Gavin Newsom, this year, Southern California had 160%, and this is all in caps, above average rainfall. In other words, it didn't get drier. It got infinitely wetter. And they still had this catastrophe happen. Now, as for Karen Bass, this is from 508, an absolutely superb point to show you what a radical, dangerous leftist she is. This is why, in some ways, I hate to say it, but the voters of Los Angeles have no one to blame but themselves, really. Because this is the kind of lunatic that they put into power. 508, Jeff, as to Karen Bass, the mayor of L.A., and her admiration of Fidel Castro, she was a founding member of the ultra-communist Vencemeros Brigade and visited Cuba a dozen plus times to celebrate Castro and his communist revolution and to get training in Cuba in how to bring that ideology here. Now, Castro has run Cuba, or he's passed away, but Castro ran Cuba, and his successors continue to run Cuba into the ground. Cuba is the jewel of the Caribbean. I mean, they could live on tourism alone. Havana is stunning. The beaches, the water. I mean, it's like Bermuda, like Bahamas. Just have have decent management and government, and just let the tourists flock in and let the money roll, baby. And instead, they messed up that island like the commies mess everything else up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quick. I want to read an absolutely brilliant message that I got from Lisa. And, as she points out, Jeff, arson is not climate change. And now we know there was arson by illegal aliens who were lighting up some of these wildfires. So since when did arson become climate change? Or as Lisa puts it, LA County, 72 genders, 0 operational fire hydrants. That's liberalism is a mental disorder, Jeff. So here is what she writes. And everything that she says is 1,000% true. Now, please just stand back and listen, because this is the insanity that has engulfed California, and this is the essence now of Democratic leadership. Jeff, several days before the fires, the National Weather Service, the LA office in particular, gave a specific warning of the possibility of dangerous fires due to approaching weather events, the Santa Ana winds, in severe form that were likely to cause these massive wildfires. Mayor Karen Bass chose, after those warnings, to go on her taxpayer-funded trip to Ghana, Africa, thereby leaving the city without a mayor during the commencement of the fires. Now, listen to this. It gets even worse. The mayor lacked a deputy mayor. Well, why? Because 1 week earlier, the deputy mayor was arrested for calling in a false bomb threat to the city. So the that lunatic got arrested. Then, Mayor Bass previously cut the fire budget by nearly $18 million. Now listen to this. Thereby resulting in the laying off of mechanics skilled in keeping fire equipment in use. Result, such equipment could not be used to stem the fires. The cuts were made to better finance aid to the homeless, a budget item already receiving more than 50% funding than the fire department. And then, this story just broke over the weekend. 2 days before the fires broke out, Mayor Bass sent a memo to the fire chief demanding an additional $49 million in cuts that would have decimated what little fire protection remained. The only thing that stopped this brilliant goal was the outbreak of the fires themselves. And then, I mean, it's a long message, but basically, the reservoirs are all empty. The fire hydrants are all empty. There's no water. And she goes on to say, Lisa says, Jeff, and remember, this is happening in a city and a state known for high taxes and dangerous weather conditions. So, i.e., where is all the money gone? Where is it all gone? And the answer is obvious. To the illegals. In Japan, she concludes with this, and I made that very same point to Mike off air. In Japan, such gross misconduct and negligence usually results in resignations and sometimes suicide. Okay, it's what the Japanese called hirikiri. I am not advocating the latter step, but certainly the former, or at least a recall by the voters. They got to go. Every single one of them has to go. From Gavin Newsom to Karen Bass to the fire chief, every single one of them. Out, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. 617-266-6868. Now you know what a colossal mess, what a colossal disaster, and a man-made disaster, a Democrat disaster these wildfires are. All right, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing and Siding and Windows. Do you believe that climate change plays any role or has any responsibility for the wildfires in Southern California? Ed Markey came out saying it's climate change all the way, and in fact, Trump is to blame. Literally, Trump is to blame. Agree, disagree. A, yes, climate change does play a role or have some role. B, no. As you know, as I've been making the case, this is a man-made disaster, completely driven by poor, incompetent, negligent Democratic leadership. A, yes. B, no. I'm a B all the way. Don't blame climate change. Blame the Democrats. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is in national ER. Is climate change to blame for California burning? And the Democrats now say, malarkey. Trump is to blame for the wildfires in Southern California. Your reaction next. 7:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you on this lovely Monday?
Very good. I'm just happy I'm not in Southern California, Mark.
Yeah, nothing. My cousin lives there, but he's about an hour away from the fire, so right now they're okay. But, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, I think a couple of days ago, officials already came out and said that this was no way caused by the climate change. Am I right? Am I right or am I wrong by saying that? Because they said that on Fox News, that they already said this was not caused by climate change. It was either an accident or deliberately set. Now, with that being said, as far as Ed Markey goes, except for Chief Fullable Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey could be the dumbest Massachusetts politician I've ever seen in my life. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, Jeff. Before Trump beat Hillary in 2016, did you ever hear a peep out of Ed Markey? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Jeff, I didn't even know he was still in office until Trump became president in 2016.
You're right. He was completely inconsequential.
Yeah,
you never heard of him. You never heard of him. You never heard from him. The running joke, I just remember, because, one of the things everybody kept telling me, this was years ago when I first came to Boston, they go, the guy is technically represents Malden, but he's never here. I go, what do you mean he's never here? No, he's never here. He's in Washington, D.C. He just lives in D.C. He's got a mansion in D.C. In, was it Bethesda, I think? Anyway, one of these swanky suburbs, wealthy suburbs outside of D.C. And so they go, no, he never comes back. And there are pictures of his mailbox at his house overflowing, like the mail's on the porch. It's just overflowing because he's never there to pick up. Pardon me? Oh, Kenwood? Okay, anyway, that sort of area in Washington. Yeah, around Bethesda. So, but the point is, he never comes back to Malden, ever. And these moonbats, they keep just reelecting the guy. Can't they at least demand that if you're going to I know he's a senator now, but then he was a member of Congress. If you're going to be a member of Congress, I don't know, at least come back to your district a few times a year. I don't know, to see what's happening, see what's going on the ground, talk to constituents, find out what they need. Mark, I told Massachusetts and California, I have never seen two such grossly mismanaged states, and the voters are all the same. Have you noticed, Mark? Smug, arrogant, self-righteous, stupid liberals. Ignorant, but arrogant and self-righteous. And you could put Mickey Mouse on the ballot. If it has a D beside it, they will pull that lever. I've never seen such mindless zombies in my life. Mark, am I wrong?
Jeff, to add to that, no, like you said, you could put Mickey Mouse on. Nothing will ever change these people's minds. And then let me ask you this question, Jeff. Will these moonbat whack jobs, will they wait till before or after Trump's inauguration to indict him for arson? Because I see it coming. I see it coming. It's like, at this point, Jeff, it's when in doubt, blame Donald Trump. Let me see. For the last 4 years, has Donald Trump been in office? Now you want to accuse him of arson. Jeff, we've lived on this planet, you and I, for 55 years. We're the same age, okay? As far as I can remember, I've never heard of a wildfire being started from drilling for oil or natural gas. This is a bunch of bull crap. Enough is enough with the hoaxes.
Mark, as always, you hit the nail right on the head. Thank you for that call, Mark. 617-266-6868. No, he's been in court the last 4 years. He hasn't had time to start a wildfire. 617-266-6868. But I'm telling you, does this play well here with the Moonbats? Oh, yeah, it's Trump's fault. Yeah. Go, Ed. That's why we elect you, Ed, the ice cream guy. Yeah. The last honest job this guy ever had was when he was a teenager riding around in that ice cream truck. 617-266-6868. Marilyn in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Marilyn, and welcome.
I have a suggestion for you, which I think would be of immense interest to your entire audience, which is probably global by now. I know there's people from other states that also actively listen and call in. So Rick Caruso, the former Democratic mayoral candidate, I learned, in addition to being a businessman and a former real estate lawyer, he was also a member of Los Angeles's Board of Water and Power Commission. So my suggestion to you is for your staff to try to reach out to him and to allocate a good 15 or 20 minutes of time, if you can, and speak with him about this issue, because he probably has a very thorough historical perspective about a lot of information that is still not being shared by the press, or is not known to the press, or is not being investigated by the press. That's one suggestion. I have one more suggestion. This was an incidental find. I happened to, the other day, Google University of California about the wildfires. And back in 2022, around April 6, 2022, there is an interesting... I have it here at my computer. Just bear with me 1 second. I hope I can pull it up. There's an interesting paper that was published, or announcement that was published, and basically they were saying, and they were, paying tribute to the Native American people, that you basically have to, burn the growth on the forest floor. So the title of this paper from April 6, 2022, or this information announcement, is How the Indigenous Practice of Good Fire Can Help Our Forests Thrive. And this is from the University of California. So in Google, if you, University of California, How the Indigenous Practice of Good Fire, that should pull up the paper. So, so this is obviously very well known for probably thousands of years, that this needs to be done, this type of clearing needs to be done. So I'm going to hang up now and listen to your response. Thank you.
Marilyn, as always, thank you very much. Very thoughtful call. Your calls are always very thoughtful. We're definitely, Sandy, I think, is going to go try to get Rick Caruso for us right after the show. I think it's a great suggestion. I'd love to do a 15-minute interview with him. He was the former mayoral challenger to Karen Bass, and he warned the people of Los Angeles, you're getting Fidel Castro basically in suit pants. That's what you're going to get with Karen Bass, a black female Castro. That's what you're going to get with Karen Bass. And man, has he been proved prophetic. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, come on. Nobody can be that colossally inept and incompetent. I want to read you the quote Now remember, this is the chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Okay, this is the top person that oversees the entire fire department of Los Angeles. And remember, why was she chosen? And again, I've said this a million times. I don't care if you're white, black, brown, Asian, male, female, gay, straight, old, young. I don't care. I just want the best, most talented person for the job. I don't care. Just stop wildfires. And if my house is burning, make sure there's enough water in the hose or in the hydrants to douse and take out the fire. That's what I want, okay? But they hired her and they celebrated her, Kristen Crowley, because she's a lesbian. Because she's a member, as they put it, of the LGBTQIA plus community. So they said, oh my God, the first lesbian police chief of LA. Yeah. And they were bragging because she checks all the boxes, especially on the lesbian, the LGBTQ front. Then she came out and it was said, this was her, on the website, our number one priority at the LAFD is diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, which, as I said last week, equals DIE, die. That's what you really get. This is the fire chief of LA. Quote, this is a quote for the ages. She's asked why. Why is there no water in the fire hydrants? Quote, I don't know how water gets to the hydrants, unquote. Let me repeat that. I don't know how water gets to the hydrants, unquote. You don't know? You're the fire chief of Los Angeles? What is it now, for the last 3 years? You don't know how water gets into the fire hydrants? How the hell did you ever become the fire chief? And then she was asked about all of these reservoirs that have no water. They're empty. They're bone dry. And in particular, the one that's very close by, the Santa, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's Y-N-E-Z. So I guess Santa Ynez is how I pronounce it. Anyway, that the Santa Ynez Reservoir has no water. It has no water. And not only does it have no water, it has been empty for 15 years. For 15 years, it's been empty. Nobody thought, hey, there's a really big wildfire. Maybe we should fill up the reservoir. Hello? Forget about the Delta smelt. And by the way, if you've ever seen the smelt, and Mike looked it up online, he said, Jeff, I thought this was like some kind of a big fish. You know, I don't like pike or, other fish, bass or, a fish you can eat. He goes, Jeff, it's the size of a sardine. It's a tiny little fish. Yes. That's why they were flushing billions and billions of gallons of fresh water into the ocean to save this stupid little tiny species of fish, the size of a sardine. You can't. It's insanity. You can't make it up. Again, symptoms of a society gone mad. E loco. So your main reservoir, or one of your main reservoirs, has been empty for 15 years because of poor management. You're the fire chief. And you're like, well, the reservoir is empty. She goes, I didn't know that. You don't know that one of your biggest reservoirs is empty? No. It's been empty for 15 years. I didn't know. The fire hydrants are dry. Why is the water not getting into the fire hydrants? I don't know how water gets into the hydrants. What? And you're the fire chief? Everything liberals touch it turns to garbage. Remember that, Midas commercial? I remember growing up, Midas, the Midas touch? They have the reverse Midas touch. Everything they touch turns to garbage. 617-266-6868. John on the Cape in Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Mark, how are you? First time caller, very
welcome,
long time
John.
listener.
Welcome.
Mark, I listen to you every morning, and all I can say is the frustration from millions of us. Accountability, I hear you say it all the time, and I hope whether you, Steve Bannon, Mark Levin, anyone can tell the Trump administration, if you want to keep everybody for the next 4 years, we want to see some accountability. Some people, Mark, have to go to jail. They can't lie to Congress. We can't spend millions and billions of dollars on a bunch of BS, as you always say, and have no accountability. You can't lie every day to the public, a la what's going on in California right now with the fires. Trump's got to have someone drop the hammer, and if you want the lying and the bull crap to stop, there's got to be accountability. People have to be held accountable. Both parties, whether it's Swalwell, Schumer, Shifty Shifts. I hear you say it all the time, but are the Trump people listening, and are they going to do what they need to do to get the people in America realize that if we break the law or lie, we go to jail, that these other people have to also?
Amen. Amen. Drop the mic. John, thank you very much for that call. Look, that you said it, accountability. No one's held accountable anymore. I mean, I am, you are. Ordinary Americans are always held accountable. In fact, honestly, I think we're held to insane standards. One little false move, one little false word, one little, really, they pounce all over us. But if you're part of the political media class, the swamp, they get away with crime after crime after crime, gross incompetence, gross negligence. Now, if it's any comfort, okay, and it's small comfort, but if it's any comfort, Gavin Newsom's national political aspirations are finished. He can spin this and blame Trump. I have the cuts. He went on NBC's Meet the Mess. He made a fool of himself, trying to blame, again, he's also trying to blame Trump for what's happening in California. And everybody can see that this is a Democrat disaster. And I think the public's disgust, even in California, a lot of people now finally are waking up. These people, they would screw up a one-car funeral. And they can't spin their way out of this one. They just can't. And there's something, look, just again, objectively, we're not talking now the debates we used to have, more taxes, less taxes, a little more spending, a little less spending, whatever. Should we go to war? Should we not go to war? Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? We're not talking about that. Like, just forget that. That's long gone. Now we're talking about the Delta smelt. You're like, what? Yes, this little tiny species, the smelt, these little fish, little tiny species of fish. You're like, okay, well, no, we can't have the reservoirs high. Why not? It's bad for the smelt. So we have to keep reservoirs very, very, very low to save the smelt. So all of this fresh water, millions and millions of gallons, we're just going to dump it into the ocean. And you're like, but what about the wildfires? What about Southern California? It's a desert. Did they need water? Well, I don't have to tell you, the smelt come before people. Like, this is now what we're talking about. We're talking, firefighters are going into people's swimming pools to get water to fight these blazes. Swimming pools. Because there's no water in the fire hydrants. This is no longer more taxes, less taxes, more spending, less spending. We're talking about insanity. We're talking about a level of incompetence that is staggering, that it's almost incredible to behold. Now, I want you to just, and I'm not the only one that's made this point, but look, I want you to stand back objectively, okay? Look at California. It's right beside an ocean. It's right beside an ocean. Northern California, you know how much snow Northern California gets? And melting snow? Do you know they get tons of rain every year? Northern California. California is surrounded by water, flooded with water. So I want you to think about this. The wealthiest country in the world, the wealthiest state in the wealthiest country, in the wealthiest county, that's Los Angeles County, that's Hollywood, that's Malibu, that's Beverly Hills, that's Pacific Palisades. These are homes at $5, $7, $8, $10, $20 million homes. The wealthiest county, in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest country, has no water. That's like saying Saudi Arabia has no sand. The Sahara Desert, well, there's no sand. What? Yeah, Gavin Newsom, we made him the El Presidente, the president of Saudi Arabia, and with Karen Bass as his mayor and the mayor of Riyadh, and there's no sand. Can you imagine if we left them in charge of the Arctic? There'd be no ice. No, really, no snow. What do you mean? It's all ice and snow. They got rid of it. They just diverted the whole damn thing. He's never going to recover from this. Now, they may reelect him as governor. That I don't know. But nationally, Gavin Newsom is finished. And Karen Bass, I don't think politically can survive this. I mean, the way now even people underneath her are just blasting her and blasting her and blasting her. So we'll see. But the Democratic Party now is going to be decimated because of this. And maybe, just maybe, California will become red again. More next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Dave on Messenger, our Western PA correspondent. Jeff, please tell everyone global warming, a.k.a. climate change, doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't. And as many of you have been pointing out, arson is not climate change. I mean, they even admitted it. Mark in Medford pointed that out a while back. They admitted it. These wildfires were caused by either negligence, they were just camping, or homeless people camping, and the fire just got out of control, or they were deliberately set, most likely by illegal aliens. Several illegals have now been arrested with blowtorches for trying to light homes on fire or to start a wildfire. So either way, whether it's negligence or deliberate, these are man-made started fires. So how can you blame this on climate change? It shows you again the lunacy of the left. Now, very, very quick. This is from Larry. Jeff, the liberals in California can't even argue that the smelt is endangered or exclusively found in California. The smelt is everywhere. That's true. So they refuse to divert millions and millions of gallons of clean, fresh water to Southern California that would have seriously mitigated these wildfires. To save a species that's not even endangered. I mean, it may be endangered in California, but it's not endangered in the rest of the country. You. Radical environmentalism is to blame for the disaster and the catastrophe unfolding in California. One more. about Newsom's now political star having fallen because of this. I think politically, as I said, on a national level, his days are over. He may have been the talk of 2028, not after this. Well, this is what Joe writes. Jeff, first, their favorite president, i.e. Kamala, goes down. Now, their favorite governor is going to go down. Only 7 more days to go. That's right. I don't know who's going to be the front runner now for the Democrats in 2028, but Joey went down, Kamala went down, and now Nero Newsom, who fiddles while California burns. Now Newsom is going down. 617-266-6868. John in Lowell. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Jeff, arson became climate change the day after a man became a woman. Listen, I've never, ever agreed with Marxist Markey, although I have nothing to disagree on because, like you said, you never hear from him. But you know what, Jeff? He's right this time. He's 100% right. This is only one of the first atrocities that's going to be under the Trump administration. And they're going to cause every atrocity that happens while he's in. Evil has no boundaries, Jeff. Remember that.
John, what's your theory? What do you think? We know the negligence, again, the lack of water, the horrible, poor forestry management. We could go on and on. So we know how badly the situation was run by California that made these wildfires now so apocalyptic. There's just no other word. But what do you think actually caused or started these wildfires?
Jeff, if I tell you not to light a stick of dynamite because it's going to blow up, are you going to light the stick of dynamite?
No.
They were told what to do. They were told what not to do, and they didn't do it. And they did do what they were told not to do. This isn't criminal negligence, Jeff. This is terrorism from the governor on down. There's no other way around it, Jeff. A second grader knows, well, maybe not a second grader. We'll say a fourth grader. Seriously, Jeff? You're going to tell me this wasn't totally on purpose? Because they know that none of them get held accountable, Jeff. Jeff, evil has no boundaries. They hate this country and what it stands for. Period. Full stop.
John, what's their end goal? I agree with you, but why is it in Gavin Newsom's interest to burn half his state down? Why would Karen Bass I get because she's a radical communist who hates this country. So to see something as beautiful as downtown LA, you know, and some of these other places, just, you know, the Pacific Palisades, that's, you know, now you're eating the rich, right? Now you're destroying prime land in America. So I can see how a communist would love something like that. But Newsom, he's got presidential aspirations. Why would he allow his state to burn? What's his motive?
Jeff, Newsom loves nothing but himself. He's not worried about a presidential shot. He knows he doesn't have a shot. There's money in this for him somewhere. There's power in this for him somewhere. They're trying to take over the country. Hey, do this, and when we get there, then we'll do this for you.
John, as always, thank you very much for your call. 617-266-6868. All right, let's go there. Let me throw this log on the fire. Do you think these wildfires were deliberate? For whatever reason, do you think they were caused deliberately? And does Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, do they have blood on their hands? Are they ultimately responsible for the catastrophe unfolding in California? 8:31 on the break, WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Eric on Messenger, and he makes a very, very, very good point. Jeff, according to him, one of the reasons why these wildfires have been started and why you could argue it's being deliberate, it's done deliberately, is, as Eric put it, Jeff, now they have prime locations to rebuild housing for illegals. Down and out in not just Beverly Hills. Jeff, think about it. Eric continues. Newsom fights with the insurance companies. They canceled the insurance plans just before the fires, and now the fires pop up, and they have all of this prime real estate for themselves and for the illegals. 617-266-6868. So let me ask you, do you think these wildfires were set deliberately? We know illegals are being arrested now for starting some of these fires, for trying to burn homes. And just a quick log on the fire, because you need to know about this. Looting is becoming a huge issue now. And in fact, you have many criminals, some illegals, some not, who are dressing up as firefighters. I swear to you, acting like, they're trying to put out a fire, but they're really just going into homes and they're stealing anything they can. You name it, they're stealing it, especially jewelry. Listen now to, this is Robert Luna, the LA County Sheriff, at a press conference. Roll cut 14, Mike.
When I was out there in the Malibu area, I saw a gentleman that looked like a firefighter, and I asked him if he was okay because he was sitting down. I didn't realize we had him in handcuffs. We were turning him over to LAPD because he was dressed like a fireman, and he was not. He just got caught burglarizing a home.
Look, you invite the third world, you become the third world. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. Okay, this is L.A. County District Attorney Nathan Hochman. Apparently, he's at the site of a home of the sisters whose home was destroyed, and he's saying now there are looters everywhere, burglars everywhere, criminals everywhere like vultures who are now pilfering, stealing, scamming, doing everything they can to now rob the poor defenseless people who've lost everything. Roll cut 9A, Mike.
So I'm here in Pacific Palisades at the site of what used to be my sister's home. She's lived here for a while, a long time, with her family, and now this home, along with the homes in the street in this neighborhood, are just gone. I've been here for over 60 years. I've not seen devastation like this in my lifetime. And you have to harken back to the 1990s when we were hit with the floods and the fires and the earthquakes and the riots to even get close to this. Now, I'm absolutely convinced that LA is incredibly resilient, and like it's done many, many times before, Angelenos will come back and build this back better than ever. But for the people who are thinking, the criminals who are out there thinking about taking advantage of this situation through looting or through scams or over the internet and preying on vulnerable victims, let me make it quite clear what's going to happen. The DA's office, working with law enforcement, is going to arrest you, they're going to prosecute you, and you will be punished to the full extent of the law. That's a promise.
I don't believe you. I'd like to believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Because this is California, and that's another problem that California has. Crime has become rampant. And crime has become rampant. Again, the fish rots from the head down. Because Gavin Newsom is soft on criminals, because they've elected so many George Soros-backed district attorneys who refuse to prosecute. Forget burglaries. Forget arson. Forget theft. Forget shoplifting. They won't even prosecute murders and rapes. So if they're not going to prosecute murders and rapes, you think, we got a message for you. You want to take advantage of this? You want to start looting? We're going to throw the book at you. Nobody's afraid of you. That's why now you've got criminals dressing up as firefighters, for God's sake, to go in and break into people's homes and steal. That's how brazen they've become. So, look, there's only one way to change California. Get rid of Newsom and replace him with someone like Governor Ron DeSantis. In other words, you need effective Republican leadership, or to be more accurate, effective conservative leadership. That's the only way you're going to turn California around. Otherwise, the decline is just going to continue. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? David in Linfield.
Did co-author something. He co-authored the Do Not Call Us, which is a complete and utter joke. Hackers can get in, figure out the phone numbers, and those are all going to be very live, valid numbers to call. And that's what happens. So we get all these bad calls all the time. I've stopped signing up my phone number to it. The calls have started to diminish. Also, there'd be no enforcement mechanism. I argued this when it came out. I said, how are you going to prosecute people? You're going to need hundreds, if not thousands, of assistant attorneys general. And what are they going to do, fine them? There's no enforcement. It was the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Second point is, the population of Los Angeles County in 1900 was fewer than 200,000 people. Now it's about 18 million. It's not climate change, it's people change. That area has been Santa Ana winds for thousands of years. Nothing has changed there. It's the same. The problem is people are there now, and where stuff was burning naturally and there was no one there, no one paid attention. Now we're in the way. So it's people change. I went to law school in San Diego. I experienced the Santa Ana winds. They would shift, and all of a sudden the temperature would be hot and dry every year. Went on year after year. Nothing's new here. Stop calling it climate change. Let's start calling it people change, because that's what it is.
David, you're completely right. In fact, to be honest, even many in California are saying that. I mean, we know there's a lot of crazy liberals, but even some of the crazy liberals are saying, well, no. As you pointed out, the Santa Ana winds have been with us forever. They pointed to a slightly different statistic, but you're both making the same point, that LA's population has doubled since 1960. Okay, that's what they're all saying. So, and it's 18 million, the greater LA area. So they're like, it's just so many people. That's what's changed everything. Why have they been so negligent? How can you get to the point, David, seriously, where you have no water in the fire hydrants, that your reservoirs are bone dry, that you never clear out underbrush or dead trees, that your forestry management is abysmal to the point that it's dangerous, deadly dangerous? How does it get to that point, David?
So what happens is, I used to be on planning boards of some of the towns in the Boston area, and we would do fire mitigation when we would approve a new subdivision. Sometimes we didn't have water all that way out, town water, so we would make the developers install fire ponds. So they would have to dig out this area, make a big retention basin, and then have a standpipe in it, so they could at least draw water right there. Trucks would come with 2,000 gallons or whatever, and the truck did run out of that in minutes. I did the math the other day on how many gallons per hour a fire hose can do, and I was thinking about the fire, and I said, they had a 1 million gallon storage tank. I said, that thing will be bone dry in less than an hour with 15 or 20 hoses accessing. It's gone. So they're not thinking about mitigation. They allow all these subdivisions, they allow all these houses, but they're not doing fire mitigation at the same time that they're approving additional projects. That's the problem. They're not keeping up with the pace of the demand of construction, the new housing, and then how is the infrastructure now going to handle it? Maybe they've got pipes that are only 8-inch diameter ones way back. Now they need to be upgraded to 12-inch because we've just added 300 homes down the street, or 500, or whatever it is. They've got to stay up with it. They're not. That's the problem. And then you got the environmentalists who won't allow you to put in a new pipe because you're going to dig up and disrupt and cause soil erosion and all that nonsense. It's crazy, but it's a population change combined with total governmental mismanagement, failing to look ahead, failing to look at the background infrastructure behind it to say, can what we have existing support what is now being approved? The answer is no. Then we have to do both. We have to improve the infrastructure, and then we can continue to approve. Or we do a moratorium until we get the infrastructure up and ready to accommodate the new housing. That's been the mistake. It's just complete stupidity. But, and Markey and Warren are, among the dumbest there are. And Markey being that do not call thing. What a stupid idea. As though you think people aren't going to hack in and find all the valid phone numbers.
He's an ice cream truck driver. I mean, that's really the epitome of his, to me, of his talent. Really, the best you can ask of this guy is to drive nothing wrong with driving an ice cream truck. But to me, that's the best he can ever do. And he's been promoted way, way beyond his abilities. David, outstanding call. Best audience in the business. More next. 50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, many of you in this great audience have been sending me text after text after text, email after email, messenger after messenger, or message after message on Messenger, forgive me. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, about Linda Resnick. So, let me just read to you this text I got from 917, and make of it what you will. I think there's something to it. I'd like to investigate this further, but I think 917 is onto something. Jeff, meet the owner of Fiji water. Now, that's interesting, because sometimes I will have a bottle of Fiji water. So it's pretty good water, to be honest. Expensive like hell, which is why I don't drink it that often. But, it's pretty good water. Anyway, meet the owner of Fiji water. She is billionaire Linda Resnick. Now, here's the part that my eyes just pop out when I saw this. Her family owns 60 to 75% of the water in California. Holy mackerel. Her family donates huge amounts of money to Democrats, especially Gavin Newsom. In fact, she donated to stop Gavin Newsom's recall. She was one of his biggest donors. Her family, Fiji Water, uses over 150 billion gallons of water every year. Holy wow. Her family apparently, according to 917, was in this infamous 1994 secret meeting that took place in California that officially ended water being a public right in California. Now, again, this needs more investigation. I want this to be, and corroborated. I want it to be uncovered and looked into very closely. But this is incredible. Well, now you're starting to connect the dots about who benefits. Now things are starting to become a little bit clearer. So the globalist billionaires who are bankrolling Gavin Newsom have a very strong interest in the water supply in California. Now, this is, furthermore, this is from 508. Jeff, I believe Gavin Newsom in some way benefits from the burn. He's already talking about, quote unquote, reimagining the Pacific Palisades. The intent was to build a smart city there. They wanted to do the same to Lahaina. But seriously, there's nothing to see here, folks. Move along. I did not know about Newsom coming out, pushing the Palisades to become a smart city. I knew about Lahaina. I did not know about the Palisades. Anyway, so we'll see. According to the Washington Post, this is what 617 texts me. Jeff, according to the Washington Post, the deadly Palisades fire in Los Angeles County is believed to have been caused by fireworks set off on New Year's Eve. Okay, so let's just say, I doubt it, to be honest, but okay, let's just take the Washington Post theory for a second, okay? Then what does this have to do with climate change? If you take the Washington Post at their word, and they say, no, this was fireworks, New Year's Eve, they got carried away, and the sparks, and it set off these fires, then what does this have to do with climate change? So why are you blaming it on climate change? And furthermore, why are you blaming it on Donald Trump? I mean, pick door one or pick door two. You can't pick both. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Now, final point. To show you how corrupt and cynical, really diabolical the Democrats are, especially the two senators from the People's Republic of Massachusetts. So, you've got Markula, you've got Malarkey, okay, Ed Markey, who, by the way, is completely in bed with globalist billionaires who are underwriting the Green New Deal. I mean, you want to talk about getting his pockets lined. So he's in bed with all of these people that are pushing, as Trump calls, the Green New Scam. Okay, the Green New Deal. Going on about how it's climate change that's causing all of this. Trump, people are already dying because of him. And you've got the chief spreading bull, Elizabeth Warren, Granny Warren. Granny Warren, this is an unbelievable story. And I want to give a hat tip to the Gateway Pundit for first breaking it. So now she's trying to raise money, fundraise, off of the wildfires in Southern California. So here's what she sent out, okay? Quote, I'm quoting directly on X. To help support the communities around LA being devastated by wildfires, can you split a donation between the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation and the United Way of Greater Los Angeles? 100% of your donation will go directly to these organizations. And then she has a link underneath it. Now, what do you think the link is to? Support the LAFD Foundation and the United Way of Greater LA. Secure.actblue.com. She's trying to raise the money through ActBlue. ActBlue is not a charity. It's literally the Democratic Party's donation platform. So what Chief Spreading Bull, what Warren is trying to do, you want to talk about disgusting? She's literally attempting to politically fundraise off of these apocalyptic, devastating wildfires in California. She's trying to get the Democrats to profit off of these disasters. Yeah. Give to the United Way, the rebuild homes or whatever. Give to the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation, but do it through our platform, ActBlue, so we get a nice cut. Everything that goes to California will go through the Democrat Party. So, as the mafia, the Sicilian mafia says, we wet our beak. Make sure we get to wet our beak. I mean, honestly, these people, just when you think they couldn't get any lower, they're still dying. The homes are still burning. People are still fleeing. The fires are still raging. And they're looking to make sure they get a cut of all the money being donated to California. And you've got Gavin Newsom, by the way, now doing commercials asking for donations, literally, like with cup in hand, going around saying, "Can you please donate to the Fire Department of Los Angeles, please, please, please?" What have they all been paying taxes for all these years? You want to know what the donation is? It's called taxes. So you squandered it all on illegals, or on your crazy environmental projects, or in stealing it, or in sending it to Ukraine, that now, when you have a real crisis, you have no money. And you got to, like a pauper, like a beggar, you got to beg people now to send you cash to fight fires? 617-266-6868. As I said earlier, you put Gavin Newsom in charge of the Sahara Desert. Within 5 years, you got a shortage of sand. How you can run such a beautiful state into the ground, and this fast, this quick. There's an evil genius to it. That's all I have to say. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Patrick in Milton. Thanks for holding, Patrick, and welcome.
Jeff. These wildfires were started, some of them were started by aliens, but not the little green ones. But, you know, my father was a brilliant man and really, really great guy. And we loved our dad. But in his late 70s, early 80s, he started to get a little foggy. We had to take the keys from the car, and it was tough to do. It was a tough thing to do. And we had to hire a housekeeper because he was leaving the stove on, and we didn't want to burn the house down. And eventually, you know, his mind got a little Joe Biden-like. And it was sad to see. But when are we going to get term limits? When are we going to put these people out of office? When are we going to come to our senses and vote for term limits? This is crazy. Nancy Pelosi was coming down the aisles of Congress in a walker last week.
Well, Patrick, look, don't get me wrong. I agree with you completely. I'm all for term limits. Okay, I have been for most of my life. I'm with you on this all the way. But, Patrick, what do you say to the argument, take California? Okay, you term limit Gavin Newsom, and they'll put some other moonbat. In other words, the people of California, like the people of Illinois, like the people of Massachusetts, like the people of New York, these people that live in these deep blue states, that basically they just they'll vote communism forever. If it's got a D beside its name, they just pull that lever because they're, you know, like mindless zombies, like sheeple, that it doesn't matter how many term limits you impose on them. They'll just vote for another type of commie, no matter how destructive, how disastrous they are. That this is ultimately what they want, and they don't care what the consequences are. What say you?
I'm surprised that Massachusetts keeps electing Liz Warren after she took an affirmative action spot. She basically, you know, lied. She's never been discriminated against based on race. That's really impossible. And then yet the people keep voting for her over and over again, and she's lied her way in, and Trump lived rent free in her head, and she took the genealogical test, and she is 1,024th Native American. That's crazy, and people still reelected her.
Patrick, let me ask you this, because you're completely right. Again, completely right. Elizabeth Warren, what is she? And I'm being serious. You know, Ted Kennedy, I can point to you to whatever. I couldn't stand the guy. I couldn't stand Ted Kennedy. But at a minimum, I could point to you to this bridge, this highway, this project, this what. He brought the bacon home. All right, corrupt as he was, murderer that he was. Okay, that's why they're voting for him. I get it. What has Elizabeth Warren done or Ed Markey? What have the two senators of our state done? Anything concretely to benefit the people of Massachusetts? Can you name me anything? Really? A military base, a road, a hospital, a school, a bridge. Have they done anything for the state except line their pockets and get rich?
Rails against the rich are the problem, and it's just terrible. Just terrible what they're doing to us. And the people go right along for it. Every 4 years, they fall for it. It's sad. It's really sad because our country's going down. I just pray every day that I'm grateful that we have the sense to reelect this man. And I just hope that he gets to change this country and bring it back.
Oh, it's all going to change. It's going to change in 7 days. Really, I'm counting down now the days. Next week, it will be official. He will be inaugurated, and there will be a new chapter and a new day and a new era in America. And it can't come fast enough. Patrick, thank you very much for that call. No, really, all kidding aside, besides railing against Trump, and that's all they do, what do they do? What do they do for the state? I want to ask one liberal, really, one Democrat voter, anyone who's voted for Markey or Warren, besides book deals, besides giving speeches and charging $50, $60, $80, $100,000 a pop, besides fattening their bank accounts, okay, besides selling us down the river, concretely, can you, just one, I just want one, they've been there forever. Can you name me one thing? One thing that they've done for this state? One. Literally, one. I'm telling you, you can't. Now, what does this say about the liberal voters, the moonbat voters of Massachusetts? At least with Kennedy, you can say whatever. Okay. Hey, you know what? That bridge, yeah, Kennedy brought the money for that. Okay, at least he brought you a bridge. But these two, he gives you a tweet on X. That's what the malarkey does. I blame Trump for the wildfires. That's our senator. We love him. Pathetic. 617-266-6868. John in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. First of all, I want to say my condolences to you and your family for your father's loss.
Thank you, John.
I have 5 quick points, and tying into the Resnick family and donating to Newsom. Newsom, the California governor, pays $242,000 a year. That's the governor's salary. He just bought a $9.1 million house.
Wow.
How do you do that on $242,000 salary? Because I really want to know. I would love a house like that on a 6-figure income. For 2, the reservoir, they had a reservoir up in Pacific Palisades. I got siblings that live in California, so I've got some information from them. They got a reservoir. It's right there in Pacific Palisades. It can hold 117 million gallons. It was empty. What do you think the fires are doing for the pollution in California right now? Well, you'd think they'd waive emissions testing for anybody coming in. Well, Oregon sent 60 fire trucks. They stopped them in San Francisco to do emissions testing on the 60 fire trucks.
No, come on. John, you're kidding.
They should be coming through. Oh, no, that's fact. Found that on, I think it's a website called fireintel.org. I could have it wrong, but I think that's the website. Jesse, they let him through, I believe, but
no, they did the emissions test. That's just, I thought it was a parody. You know, like, in other words, like, Jeff, you want to know how crazy they are? And you're like, you know, and you 60 fire trucks, they stop for emissions tests in San Francisco. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, are they crazy? Oh, my God, are they crazy? Please keep going, John. You're on a roll.
Jesse Waters interviewed Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister. She said at some point, people need to stop looking at the letter beside our politicians' names and vote for people who are competent and intelligent and that can do the job. We hire nannies, butlers, daycares, contractors, plumbers, electricians. We don't ask them what political party they're in, and we let them in our homes. These people have control over our everyday lives. We need to just stop looking at the letter and going after the people who are qualified to do this. And to add to the statement about Resnick owning, yes, they do. They own 70% of the water in that state. And this is why farmers can't get the water, because I believe they're also own agricultural properties, and they divert some of that water to their crops.
How much do you know, John, by any chance, or if you don't, if someone listening does, and I'd love for you to call in, how much money, Fiji Water and then the Resnick family, how much do they pour into Gavin Newsom's coffers? Do you have any idea?
Millions. Listen, he's skimming. This is why there's a budget. That's why they cut $17.5 million from the firefighters' budget. I heard $100 million went to the port of Long Beach to upgrade to make it more green. And here, listen to this. I'm going to finish with this point. California is the only western state that doesn't collect their rainwater. And my brother told me that the smelt is an invasive creature. It's not even native to California.
So they're doing all this to protect this little fish the size of a sardine that's not even native to California.
Are your eyes and ears bleeding yet?
John, tell me if you agree or disagree with this. When I listen to you lay out this devastating case of colossal incompetence, stupidity, corruption, negligence, really criminality, that's what this is. It reminds me of Venezuela. Like if you've been following Venezuela the last, since Chavez and Maduro came to power, how they just ran that country into the ground. Am I wrong? Are we watching California now being transformed into a third world hellhole right in front of our eyes? Am I wrong, John?
Yes, unfortunately. And, my two brothers that live out there, they're both millionaires. They're retired. And I've asked them, why don't you leave? And my brother's like, he lives 70 miles south of these fires. He's down Laguna Niguel. So they're not touching him, but...
No, I hear you. They also have very expensive property. I mean, and the weather. Look, I got to say, the weather in California is, you can't beat it. You just can't beat it. But no, I hear you, John. California is Venezuela of the North. The great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, text line is, it's going nuclear. It is. Whoa, people are texting from all over the country. Okay, this is from 603. Jeff, you can look it up, and apparently it has been confirmed and corroborated. As people analyze California's failed wildfire efforts over the past 5 years, remember that Governor Gavin Newsom, or as you like to call him, Jeff, Nero Newsom, is a graduate of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders Program. There you go. So he's a protege of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. They really are. These globalists really are thick as thieves. Absolutely thick as thieves. Okay, this is one more from Tommy on Messenger. And so, remember John in Plymouth about those 65 fire trucks from Oregon? They're coming in to help fight the fires. And somewhere around San Francisco, they got stopped for emissions tests. Well, just to reinforce what John in Plymouth said, this is Tommy who messaged me on Messenger. Jeff, I'm reading right now. This is incredible. I'm reading right now that California isn't conducting emissions tests on incoming fire engines. They are, however, conducting safety inspections on the vehicles after a long road trip. So what they're claiming in California, no, it's not an emissions test. It's a safety test. This is Jeff Kuhner. Call me crazy, okay? My state is burning. I see these fire trucks coming from Oregon. You think I'm doing a safety test on them? Emission safety, I don't care. Here's what I'm doing, okay? Go, with my finger pointed. That's where one of the fires are. Just, guys, keep going. Here's food, here's water, keep going. Go there and start taking out the fires. You can't make this up. This is insane. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mike, I have heater in Rock LND. All right, so I'm assuming, Mike, I guess, I'm going to try to decipher this, Mike. I would guess Heather in Rockland. Let me see if I'm correct. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding and welcome. Am I right? Is that your name?
Yes, that is my name, Jeffrey. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, you see, Mike is so consumed with the fires in California that he's now calling you Heater, writes you down as Heater instead of Heather.
That's okay. I'm glad you took my call because I have a question and a comment. I heard what one of your questions earlier is, do we think that the fires were set intentionally? And I had this conversation with my bridge friends, and the Trump, we stood out on the bridge, the Front Street Bridge friends, and I asked them, we think it's a land grab. We thought that this is done on purpose as a land grab, and then they educated me on the 15-minute cities, and they think that has a lot to do with it. And I actually mentioned this to my mother, and she thought I was crazy because she thinks I can be a conspiracy theorist sometimes. But and my mother is a Trumper. She's not like a liberal or anything, but sometimes she thinks I'm a little a little far off, But I kind of think that it doesn't smell something doesn't smell right with this.
Well, look, Heather, look, at a bare minimum, okay, let's not, where is it going? What is the end goal? What are the aims, the objectives? Let's just look at the facts that are undeniable. We have wildfires, historic, that are burning down some of the most beautiful tracts and swaths of land in America and in the world. We know that illegal aliens have set some of those fires. That is now undeniable. These fires were deliberate. Someone lit them on fire. This was arson. It wasn't climate change. We know that there was criminal, colossal mismanagement and incompetence. Water, billions of gallons, were not diverted to Southern California to protect the smelt, the fish. So the fire hydrants are dry. The garden hoses are dry. There's no water. There are no fire trucks or lack of fire trucks. There's not enough firefighters because they cut so much from the budget because they had to give it to the illegals. Free healthcare, the big one, that really drained their budget. And you have a democratic regime beholden to radical environmentalists who have said, without question, unconditionally, do not clear out the underbrush, don't remove the dead trees, don't clear out these forest floors. That everyone has been saying for years. You don't manage your forests. They are going to burn like gasoline. And this is exactly what's happened. And so the question now we have to ask ourselves, Heather, is, que bono? Who benefits? Someone will benefit from this. Well, look at Lahaina. Who benefited there? Rich, wealthy billionaires came in to scoop up the land for a song at bargain basement prices. Don't be surprised if this happens again. 31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you want to see what DEI does to a society. And if at its core, in a nutshell, if you want to understand why is the Democrat leadership all across California so pathetically incompetent and corrupt, so negligent, or here in Massachusetts or in other deep blue states, it's because DEI, wokeness, neo-Marxism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, permeates every aspect of society. Social ideology, political ideology, economic ideology, almost every institution. And in the end, as Victor Davis Hanson said, it leads to a society that is ultimately so disconnected from reality, it's insane. And we're now reverting. Remember, in the 19th century, we're not able to protect ourselves against fires. This is now what is starting to happen in places like California. Because they have so deindustrialized the state, so defarmed the state, so decivilized the state, that now they're helpless in the face of wildfires, which California has had for a millennium. And they're trying to blame, quote-unquote, climate change when they have no one to blame but themselves. Now, here is exactly why. Here, let me give you a classic example of exactly what diversity, equity, inclusion does to a society. Kristen Larson is the assistant chief for the LA Fire Department. Now, if I said this, you would think, Jeff, you're exaggerating for dramatic effect. So I'm going to play the cut because you're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me, I'm telling you. Now, you have to understand something. And the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because it's very pertinent to the story. Kristen Larson is a big, strong woman. She's not what you think. In other words, how they've been lowering physical standards to try to get more women as firefighters. So, you're seeing images of female firefighters who are, 110 pounds, 120 pounds, 130 pounds, clearly not physically strong enough to say to pull a man out of a burning fire or to physically be able to handle the rigors of firefighting. No. This woman, physically, I'm telling you, there's no question, she's big. This woman, hell, I'm telling you, she's stronger than me. So she can carry someone. If she wanted to carry someone, she could carry someone. But she's too lazy. I'm telling you, she's too lazy. She is such a slob that she says, I'm not going to carry someone's husband. Come on, Jeff. An assistant fire chief says she refuses to carry someone's body, a husband's body, out of a burning fire, out of a burning home? Roll cut 12, Mike.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
He got himself in the wrong place? If I have to carry them out of a fire? So I think that she's the assistant chief. Okay? Again, female. Big, bulky woman. And she's often asked by people, well, can you carry, say, my husband? Like Jeff Kuhner, 250, 260. My husband's a 250-pound man or 260-pound man. Could you carry my husband out of a fire? Well, hey, what do I have to carry him out for? He got himself in the wrong place. In other words, it's not my job to carry him out of a fire. What? You're a firefighter. What do you mean it's not your job to carry him out of a fire? Because she's that, I'm telling you, she's a swab. Because she's that freaking lazy. And this is the number 2 person in the chain of command in the Los Angeles Fire Department. Okay? Number 2. And by the way, she's a lesbian too. Not that I care. But the point being, LGBTQ, just check that box. Woman, yup. Oh, LGBT, you got the job. Well, I don't really want to carry people out of a burning building. It's okay. We got quotas to hit. So, the number 1, the fire chief of LA says, I don't know how water gets into fire hydrants. I don't know. I don't know. And my number 1 priority is promoting diversity, not fighting fires. The number 2, her second in command, is another female LGBTQ lesbian, check, who says, hey, that's above my pay grade to carry somebody out of a burning fire. A man, a husband, over 200 pounds, why did he get himself in that position? That's his problem. Hey, if he's burning to a crisp, don't look to me. You want to know why Los Angeles is burning? This is why Los Angeles is burning. DEI equals DIE. Die. 617-266-6868 is the number. Daniel in Marlboro. Thanks for holding, Daniel, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Daniel.
My condolences to your family and you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, I don't think anybody's brought this up before, but how many smelt burnt alive? Compared to all the wildlife that was lost, thousands of animals. That's the environmental wackos that we have to deal with. That's it.
Oh, you're dead on. And I was just, do you know how many stories, and I don't even like to talk about it. I really don't. Daniel, it breaks my heart because I love my Rocky. Okay, I love my dog, my cockapoo, and so does Ava and Ashton, and Grace is madly in love with him. I mean, he follows Grace all over the house, all right, all the time. So to me, the thought of losing a dog it's like losing a family member. There are now stories. I almost have a tear in my eye, okay? It's emotional for me to say this. Where people are crying, they lost their home, but they go, believe it or not, what bothers me even more is that I lost my dog. And the reason why I'm crying is because my dog believed that his job was to protect the home. So he warned us to leave the house because it's burning, but then he refused to leave the house because his job was to protect us. And so the dog burned to death. And there are stories like this all over. You're talking about the wildlife. No, I hear you, and you're completely correct. But I'm not even talking about all the wildlife that's been lost. These beautiful, noble dogs, these beautiful, noble animals who are so selfless. And they said, no, this is our home. I'm going to protect our home. That's my job. I protect the home. And you see these owners, these pet owners, inconsolable, saying he wanted to save us and then he wouldn't leave the house because he went down with the house. So, to all these PETA people and all these crazy environmental lunatics, and that's what they are. They're environmental lunatics. Don't talk to me about the environment. Don't talk to me about the smelt. Don't talk to me about wildlife and animals. You don't give a damn. And that's what ideology does. It infects and destroys everything. Everything. Daniel, final word to you.
What?
I'm sorry, Daniel. Could you repeat that?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm good with what I just said, and thanks for.
No, great call. Honestly, great point and great call. How much time left, Mike? All right, I don't want to rush it. 617-266-6868. Look, the heroism that some of these firefighters are displaying, residents saving other people's homes, rescuing people trapped in fires, residents, dogs rescuing people, pulling them out of their homes. I mean, some of the stories you're hearing in Southern California, I mean, it's absolutely heroic. But these politicians, these Democrats, scum and scoundrels. Even the dogs are dying. Your calls next. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Ellie in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Ellie, and welcome.
Hey, Jeffy. I love you the non-sexual way.
Thank you, Ellie.
I'll try to be quick here. In 2019, the WEF and G20 launched Global Smart Cities Alliance on Technological Governments to support the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 11. These cities will be monitored by AI to corral, control the behavior of human beings, track and trace, limit freedom of movement, speech, and privacy, especially for heavily populated areas. This brings the word scorched earth policy to a whole new level, because what better way to create these cities unless you start on a clean slate? You know what I mean?
Well, I think you're putting your finger on something very profound. Look, there's no question in my mind. I mean, the evidence is there. It's for, if anybody, you have to be blind not to see it. The World Economic Forum and the globalists made it very, very clear that they want to transform the world. They have said this repeatedly. They want a new world order. And what is at the heart of their new world order? They want what's called smart cities. 15 minutes, densely populated areas, like what China has. Communist, again, remember, communist China is always the model now. They openly say it. We want the world to be like communist China. And their social model is China. And so they want to track people's movement. They want to track people's speech. They want to track their bank accounts. They want to make sure they want to track their freedom of speech. They want to monitor them. They want to censor them. Look at the reaction now. Joe Biden went out of his way. It was one of the most unbelievable statements I ever heard from a sitting president. Blasting Mark Zuckerberg. Not that I'm a big fan of Zuckerberg and Meta and Facebook, but, to give Zuckerberg his due. He says, no, we're going to stop all this fact-checking. We're going to stop it because that was just a Trojan horse for censorship. Under the guise of fact-checking, we were censoring. And Zuckerberg even admits in an interview, he said, you know how many Biden administration officials we had calling us up, yelling, screaming, threatening, intimidating us, saying, this is misinformation or disinformation on COVID. Take it down. Take these posts down on Facebook. And Zuckerberg says, and they all turned out to be completely correct, that masks didn't work, that the lockdown didn't work, that social distancing, the 6 feet rule, was literally made up, but they were yelling and screaming, it's disinformation, misinformation, take it down, take it down. So Zuckerberg is saying we're not going to have censorship anymore. No more this so-called fact-checking. Biden, in front of the media, says it's un-American not to have fact-checkers. In other words, how dare you have freedom of speech? It's not American, according to Joey. So he is doing the bidding of the globalists. In China, there is no freedom of speech. There is no freedom of movement. The government watches every step that you make, and they want people living in self-contained areas, i.e. 15-minute or smart cities. Now, what does this have to do with wildfires? You keep burning up land. You keep scorching the earth, as you put it, the scorched earth policy, literally. Well, that's how you can rebuild, build back better. Remember, as Biden said in 2020, build back better. Los Angeles can now be turned into a 15-minute city. Or they can break it up into chunks and turn different chunks into little mini 15-minute cities. But that's always what they push whenever a natural disaster happens. Why is that? Why can't we just rebuild it to what it was before? Bigger, better, stronger? No. It's always the 15-minute cities. And that's because it's the World Economic Forum, it's the New World Order, it's what the globalists want. Remember what Rahm Emanuel famously said, never let a crisis go to waste. So, you got wildfires? Boom. Don't let a crisis go to waste. And there's going to be a lot of money made. They're going to make money like they made money in Hawaii. That you can take to the bank. Ellie, thank you very much for that call. Kevin in Boston. Kevin, I hate to do this to you. I've got 1 minute left. The floor is yours. Go.
All right, Jeff, I think you mentioned Maui. It's the same thing. We go back to the Mayor Bass of L.A. Here she is, denies the New York Fire Department, FD, but allows Mexico, the country of Mexico, to have those firefighters in such critical needs. When we look at these slime balls like Ed Markey, all right, they're listening to Jesse Chase, all right, 28 years a congressman, now made senator, but for 16 of those years, he was the FCC. People like Mark Zuckerberg that denied the truth for so many people, so many platforms that they did. He is the one that gave them the clause, Section 230, all right, where they have immunity, all right, when they were publishing and censoring our words and the truth. And hopefully now truth comes out.
I agree. Kevin, look, I completely agree. The truth now is coming out. And that's why Gavin Newsom is in trouble. That's why Karen Bass is in trouble. That's why the entire Democrat regime in California is in big trouble. It's not just LA that's burning, but the Democrat regime itself. Their days are numbered.